Vladimir Putin thought that he had U.S. President Donald Trump all figured out. The Russian leader had played Trump like a fiddle, manipulating, lying, and delaying, all in service of continuing his ill-thought invasion of Ukraine. To Putin, he was the puppet master, leading Trump down any path he wanted the U.S. president to follow. Only, the strings have snapped, and Putin has lost control. Putin celebrated too early. Now, the U.S. is sending even more weapons to Ukraine, as Trump grows frustrated with Putin's antics, and doubles down on supporting the Russian leader's greatest enemy. On July 8, Trump made a massive announcement. After several days of pausing military aid to Ukraine, halting most deliveries of vital air defense systems Ukraine needs to defend itself against Russia, Trump conducted a turnaround. The shipments are back on, and Trump believes they're now essential to bringing an end to the Ukraine war. We have to. The AP press reports Trump as saying, they have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now. We're going to send some more weapons, defensive weapons primarily. The move will come as great news for Ukrainian President Zelenskyy, and it'll anger Putin. Russia's leader thought that the U.S. pausing military aid had given him the green light to ramp up his aerial assaults against his enemy. To him, Trump was a man he'd manipulated into giving him precisely what he wanted. Now, Putin realizes that he was overconfident. He'd overplayed his hand with his constant delaying tactics in ceasefire negotiations, and the U.S. has had enough. The Pentagon has confirmed Trump's decision, AP says, with a statement noting that shipments will resume to ensure the Ukrainians can defend themselves, while we work to secure a lasting peace and ensure the killing stops. Peace is still on Trump's mind, but this latest decision shows that he realizes peace can only come if the U.S. applies substantial pressure on Putin. It can allow Russia's leader to gain momentum or believe he's winning his war. If it does, Putin will only grow more confident in his belief that he has all the leverage in future negotiations. And just a few days ago, he certainly had that leverage. Putin's overconfidence stems from the fact that the U.S. has engaged in something of a roller coaster ride with Ukraine over military aid. As the New York Times reports, Ukraine's relationship with the U.S. has often been more contentious than Zelenskyy would have liked. The most recent pause was the second the U.S. has put in place in 2025, though the circumstances behind each pause have differed. Back in early March, when Trump first paused U.S. aid to Ukraine, the decision came after a disastrous White House meeting with Zelenskyy. The two leaders were at each other's throats, suggesting a fallout that would have had Putin rubbing his hands with glee. Trump responded by pausing military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine. A few days later, both were resumed when delegates from Trump and Zelensky's cabinets met and hashed out a 30-day ceasefire deal that Putin has ultimately refused. The more recent pause resulted from the U.S. being wary about its own missile stockpiles, making it hesitant to send more to Ukraine, particularly Patriot missiles. As The Guardian reported on July 8, the U.S. believes it only has about 25% of the Patriot missile interceptors it needs for all of the Pentagon/military plans. Those interceptors haven't been going to Ukraine. Instead, the U.S. has been burning through its stockpiles in the Middle East. When Iran responded to U.S. airstrikes against its nuclear bases with a ballistic missile strike against the Al Udeid military base in Qatar, the U.S. used nearly 30 Patriot missiles to defend itself. But now, the situation between the U.S. and Iran has calmed down, perhaps opening the door for the U.S. to resume military aid to Ukraine. Whatever the reasons, the pausing problem seems to be over, at least for now. U.S. aid will soon start flowing back into Ukraine. The key question is, what will Ukraine be getting? The shipments paused a few days ago included Patriot missiles, Hellfire missiles, howitzer rounds, and guided multiple launch rocket systems, along with other ammunition. All are vital. The Patriots will bolster Ukraine's aerial defenses as Putin blasts the country with missiles and drones. The other weapons will help Ukraine conduct defensive and offensive operations to slow Putin's summer campaign. Specifically, on July 8, Trump promised to send 10 Patriot missiles to Ukraine, 20 fewer than the 30 initially set for delivery before the pause. Those missiles are still at the Ukraine-Poland border, and it's unclear if Trump will release the full set or drip-feed them as the U.S. assesses its stockpile issues. But that's not all. Also, on July 8, the Wall Street Journal reported that Trump is considering approving the delivery of new weapons not promised under former President Joe Biden, including another full Patriot battery. That would be huge, giving Ukraine more options against Putin's aerial raids. The journal also says the U.S. is exploring convincing Ukraine's allies to send additional batteries, potentially improving Ukraine's air defense markedly in the coming months. This new system would add to the 3 the US has already donated, plus 3 from Germany, and 1 from a European consortium totaling 8. That's still short of Zelensky's stated need of 10 to 25 for full coverage, but it's a step forward. Still, some skeptics, like Maxim Skripchenko of Kyiv's Transatlantic Dialogue Center, doubt this signals a full US turnaround. It's not the ideal strategy we would like to see, he says, but we need to adapt to it and find a place for Ukraine in that strategy. His comments reflect concerns that Ukraine still can't count on consistent US support given Trump's focus on the Middle East and Pacific, yet, for many in Ukraine, the timing couldn't be better. Trump noted in his comments that Putin has been hitting Ukraine hard in recent weeks. According to the UK's permanent representative to the UN, Barbara Woodward, Russia's aerial assaults on civilians have intensified this summer. Between June 11th and 17th alone, attacks killed at least 28 civilians and injured hundreds. The assaults haven't slowed. On July 4th, hours after Trump spoke with Putin, Russia launched a record-breaking attack, 539 drones and 11 missiles, killing 1 and injuring 26. Ukraine intercepted most, but 72 got through. This pattern shows Putin's reliance on aerial strikes to inflict damage, with monthly totals surpassing 2,000 missiles and drones 4 times in 2025. This context makes the U.S. decision to resume aid even more critical. Zelensky's requests for more Patriots reflect his plea for help against Russia's barrages. Trump's turnaround isn't a full solution, but it's a vital step toward strengthening Ukraine's defenses. Looking ahead, Trump's growing frustration with Putin is clear. In February, Trump said he trusted Putin wanted peace. By July, he called Putin's niceties meaningless. This shift suggests Trump may be more inclined to support Ukraine if Zelenskyy maintains straight talk and diplomatic efforts. Ukrainian MP Irina Gashenko sees the aid resumption as a sign of political change in Washington. Driven by Russia's intensifying attacks and pressure from European allies, she emphasizes the need for Ukraine to reinforce diplomatic ties with the U.S., avoiding actions that could frustrate Trump further. Additionally, Trump may escalate pressure on Putin through sanctions or tariffs. Senator Lindsey Graham is pushing a bipartisan bill for 500% tariffs on nations doing business with Russia, aiming to cripple Putin's war machine. For now, Ukraine welcomes the renewed U.S. support. Putin's early celebrations have backfired, and Trump's frustration could lead to more decisions favoring Ukraine. As modern weapons flow in, Russia's outdated tactics are costing it dearly on the battlefield. The tide may be turning in. Putin's overconfidence could be his undoing.